Origin of a psychic is a person who claims to use extrasensory perception, ESP, to identify information hidden from the normal senses, particularly involving telepathy or clairvoyance, or who performs acts that are apparently inexplicable by natural laws, such as psychokinesis or apportation. Although many people believe in psychic abilities, the scientific consensus is that there is no proof of the existence of such powers, and describes the practice as pseudoscience. The word psychic is also used as an adjective to describe such abilities. Psychics encompass people in a variety of roles. Some are theatrical performers, such as stage magicians, who use various techniques, prestidigitation, cold reading, and hot reading, to produce the appearance of such abilities for entertainment purposes. A large industry and network exists whereby people advertised as psychics provide advice and counsel to clients. Some famous psychics include Edgar Cayce, Ingo Swann, Peter Herkos, Janet Leigh, Jose Ortiz, Elsa Maritano, Miss Cleo, John Edward, Sylvia Brown, and Tyler Henry. Psychic powers are asserted by psychic detectives and in practices such as psychic archaeology and even psychic surgery. Critics attribute psychic powers to intentional trickery or to self-delusion. In 1988, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences gave a report on the subject and concluded there is no scientific justification from research conducted over a period of 130 years for the existence of parapsychological phenomena. A study attempted to repeat recently reported parapsychological experiments that appeared to support the existence of precognition. Attempts to repeat the results, which involved performance on a memory test to ascertain if post-test information would affect it, failed to produce significant effects and thus do not support the existence of psychic ability of this kind. Psychics are sometimes featured in science fiction and fantasy fiction. Examples of fiction featuring characters with psychic powers include the Star Wars franchise, which features force-sensitive beings that can see into the future and move objects telekinetically, along with Dungeons and Dragons and some of the works of Stephen King, amongst many others. The word psychic is derived from the Greek word psychikos, of the mind or mental, and refers in part to the human mind or psyche. Elaborate systems of divination and fortune-telling date back to ancient times. Perhaps the most widely known system of early civilization fortune-telling was astrology, where practitioners believed the relative positions of celestial bodies could lend insight into people's lives and even predict their future circumstances. Some fortune-tellers were said to be able to make predictions without their use of these elaborate systems, or in conjunction with them, through some sort of direct apprehension or vision of the future. These people were known as seers or prophets, and in later times as clairvoyants, French word meaning clear sight or clear seeing, and psychics. One of the most enduring historical references to what some consider to be psychic ability is the prophecies of Michel de Nostradame, 1503 to 1566, often Latinized to Nostradamus, published during the French Renaissance period. Nostradamus was a French apothecary and seer who wrote collections of prophecies that have since become famous worldwide and have rarely been out of print since his death. He is best known for his book Les Prophéties, the first edition of which appeared in 1555. Taken together, his written works are known to have contained at least 6,338 quatrains or prophecies as well as at least 11 annual calendars. Most of the quatrains deal with disasters, such as plagues, earthquakes, wars, floods, invasions, murders, droughts, and battles, all undated. Nostradamus is a controversial figure. His many enthusiasts, as well as the popular press, credit him with predicting many major world events. Interest in his work is still considerable, especially in the media and in popular culture. By contrast, most academic scholars maintain that the associations made between world events and Nostradamus quatrains are largely the result of misinterpretations or mistranslations, sometimes deliberate, or else are so tenuous as to render them useless as evidence of any genuine predictive power. In addition to the belief that some historical figures were endowed with a predisposition to psychic experiences, some psychic abilities were thought to be available to everyone on occasion. For example, the belief in prophetic dreams was common and persistent in many ancient cultures. In a survey, reported in 1990, of members of the National Academy of Sciences, only 2% of respondents thought that extrasensory perception had been scientifically demonstrated, with another 2% thinking that the phenomena happened sometimes. Asked about research in the field, 22% thought that it should be discouraged, 63% that it should be allowed but not encouraged, and 10% that it should be encouraged. Neuroscientists were the most hostile to parapsychology of all the specialties. Some people also believe that anyone can have psychic abilities which can be activated or enhanced through the study and practice of various disciplines and techniques such as meditation and divination, with a number of books and websites being dedicated to instruction in these methods. Another popular belief is that psychic ability is hereditary, with a psychic parent passing their abilities on to their children. Parapsychological researchers attempted to use random number generators to test for psychokinesis, mild sensory deprivation in the Ganzfeld experiment to test for extrasensory perception, and research trials conducted under contract by the U.S. government to investigate remote viewing. Critics such as Ed J. Gracely say that this evidence is not sufficient for acceptance, partly because their intrinsic probability of psychic phenomena is very small. Critics such as Ray Hyman and the National Science Foundation suggest that parapsychology has methodological flaws that can explain the experimental results that parapsychologists attribute to paranormal explanations, and various critics have classed the field as pseudoscience. This has largely been due to lack of replication of results by independent experimenters. Parapsychological researchers attempted to use random number generators to test for psychokinesis, mild sensory deprivation in the Ganzfeld experiment to test for extrasensory perception, and research trials conducted under contract by the U.S. government to investigate remote viewing. Critics such as Ed J. Gracely say that this evidence is not sufficient for acceptance, partly because the intrinsic probability of psychic phenomena is very small. Critics such as Ray Hyman and the National Science Foundation suggest that parapsychology has methodological flaws that can explain the experimental results that parapsychologists attribute to paranormal explanations, and various critics have classed the field as pseudoscience. This has largely been due to lack of replication of results by independent experimenters. The evidence presented for psychic phenomena is not sufficiently verified for scientific acceptance, and there exist many non-paranormal alternative explanations for claimed instances of psychic events. Psychic abilities, apportation, the disappearance or teleportation of something from one place to another, or an appearance of something from an unknown source. Astral projection or mental projection, the ability to voluntarily project an astral body or mental body, being associated with the out-of-body experience, in which one's consciousness is felt to temporarily separate from the physical body. Automatic writing, the ability to draw or write without conscious intent. Divination, the ability to gain insight into a situation using occult lists. Dowsing, the ability to locate water, sometimes using a tool called a dowsing rod. Energy medicine, the ability to heal with one's own empathic, etheric, astral, mental or spiritual energy. Levitation or transvection, the ability to float or fly by mystical means. Materialization, the creation of objects and materials or the appearance of matter from unknown sources. Mediumship or channeling, the ability to communicate with spirits. Precognition or premonition, the ability to perceive future events. Psychic surgery, the ability to remove disease or disorder within or over the body tissue via an energetic incision that heals immediately afterwards. Psychokinesis or telekinesis, the ability to influence a physical system without physical interaction, typically manifesting as being able to exert force, control objects and move matter with one's mind. Ergo Kinesis, the ability to influence the movement of energy, such as electricity, without direct interaction. Psychometry or psychoscopy, the ability to obtain information about a person or an object by touch. 13. Pyrokinesis, the ability to control flames, fire, or heat using one's mind. D. Psychic abilities gained through Buddhist meditation. Remote viewing, telesthesia or remote sensing, the ability to see a distant or unseen target using extrasensory perception. Retrocognition or postcognition, the ability to supernaturally perceive past events. Telepathy, the ability to transmit or receive thoughts supernaturally. This is a list of alleged psychic abilities that have been attributed to real-world people. Many of these abilities are also known as extrasensory perception or the sixth sense, superhuman abilities.